This is the Kestrel Country Podcast, where we discuss the people, places, and events all around Kestrel Country.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Kestrel Country Podcast. I'm Catherine Church, and today's interview is with Hannah Grieser. We had a wonderful conversation about photography, how she got into it. She's also a very talented artist. But I wanted to let you know that the audio recording is from the video recording version because of our SD card getting messed up. So I'm sorry about that. You'll have to deal with messed up audio, but it's worth it to hear what Hannah has to say. So enjoy. So, Hannah Grieser, welcome to the Kestrel Country Podcast.
Thank you.
We're happy to have you on. So I've known Hannah for actually quite a while. Hannah's been a long-time Moscovite. But give us a little bit of background because you've bounced back and forth between Moscow. So how did you guys get here?
We moved here, I think it was 1984, I want to say, so it's been a long time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
My dad took a job at the University of Idaho, and he'd been teaching at Gonzaga before that, so we were still in the Northwest, and then grew up here mostly. My dad had a Fulbright scholarship that took us overseas when I was in junior high, but then came back and went overseas again in college, came back. And then when I met my husband, he finished his BA here in Moscow. Then we went to Dallas for his PhD, and then came back, which we never thought we'd be able to move back here. But a teaching position opened up, and at just the right time. So yeah, we're thankful to be back in the Blues.
He came back, and I had him his first year at MSA
as a professor,
okay. Which was great. He was a wonderful professor.
Well, he doesn't like to talk about the first year. He's still getting his sea legs there. He's if I could do it all over, I would.
Well, someone always has to be the first class. But we got McIntosh and Grieser coming back in. It was great. It was really fun. But so it is interesting because I feel like so many people talk about coming back to Moscow. They've gone, they've come back. It's an interesting thing. Moscow pulls people back in a good way.
Yeah.
In the best way.
It's not like a big sucking vortex.
No, not at all.
Sometimes feels like it, I guess.
So you've had experience in a lot of different spots, and we're here to talk about your photography. But Hannah's incredibly artistic and gifted, and you can draw and you can paint and graphic design. So it comes out in a lot of different areas. But we wanted to specifically talk to you about your photography because you do the Palouse and you do it really beautifully. Well, is this one of yours?
That is one of mine. As a
matter of fact, the picture behind us is one of Hannah's. So how did you get into photography?
I probably through my mom, actually. She had an old manual Minolta camera when I was growing up that she would let me play with, and film camera. And so I kind of learned how to balance, aperture and shutter speed pretty early on. But when I was, I think 4th or 5th grade, I bought my very first camera, and it was this little plastic, it was purple plastic, and I had this sparkly clear nail polish that I decorated it with. And it was probably like a $10 camera, and it took 110 film, which probably most people listening don't even know what that is, but it was, instead of in a little roll canister, it was looped on both sides, and it was a smaller strip of film, so lower resolution, if you will. Anyway, so super cheap camera, but I had that thing for a couple of years and just loved it. And so it goes way back, my interest in photography. But then when we moved to South Africa, when I was in my sophomore year of college, right before that trip, I bought my first SLR camera. This was still film. So 1998, digital photography was it existed, but it was terrible. And that's when I bought a nice Canon camera, and I had to take all my film through customs and, all the, please don't X-ray it because it might ruin the exposure, that kind of thing. And I bought a nice long lens so if we went on like safari, I could get up close to animals. So that kind of sparked like my real interest in taking it more seriously. And then when I came back and finished my degree at U of I, the first class I took was a summer class, a photography class, and then a digital imaging class, which is just kind of like in the cusp of starting to do digital image editing and stuff. So one of my first jobs back in Idaho was I worked for the athletic department as a tutor
At U of I.
At U of I. And the class I was tutoring for was a digital imaging class. So basically I was teaching football players how to use Photoshop.
But why were they learning how to use Photoshop?
It was partly just because like whatever classes that they had enrolled in, they would miss so many lectures because of traveling for games and stuff. It's hard to keep up with academics and sports. So they have a whole department to help students stay on top of things. So I would just kind of like help fill in the gaps and make sure that they were caught up so that when they would come back from away games, they weren't way behind. So anyway, and that was back when Photoshop had like one level of undo. So you could do something, and if you didn't like how it looked, you could undo it. But if you did like 3 steps,
you had to restart.
Yeah, because the machines were also slow and old.
But that's probably good, because then if you've been in Photoshop from the get-go, you are probably incredibly acquainted with it now, where it's just all second nature.
Pretty well acquainted with it, although they're developing new features so quickly that there's things that I still haven't fully explored. I just downloaded the beta version that has generative AI to it, which is very weird.
Oh, crazy.
So you could take an image like this, and you can't see it in the screen here, but there's a little pond at the bottom of this picture. But if there wasn't, I could like highlight this section and type in add a pond.
And it would
add a pond. And it would be almost seamless. It's still really low resolution, and it's still pulling images like from the broader internet. So it's not always convincing, but it's just impressive to me how close we are to it being.
Where things are so fake.
So where you can't trust what you're seeing. Yeah. I mean, that's been the case for a long time. Like I've done
like swapping heads on Photoshop.
Yeah, absolutely,
that kind of stuff.
That's been around for.
Yeah.
I mean, that was around in film editing. You could even with X-Acto knives.
Oh my word!
You know, you could do it, but it wasn't in like the hands of just your average high school student to just swap out people and put them in a scene where they weren't actually ever there. And it could be a little scary, actually, if you think about...
Well, it is interesting. And from an artistic standpoint, too, all of a sudden you're... You know, and I think there probably was a little bit of this between what film and digital, too, where people thought, you know, anybody can take a picture now. You don't need the professionals. Is it harder to stand out, do you think, with photography now as all of the, you know, technology continues to catch it up?
In some ways, yes, I think it is. It's, I mean, anytime technology or something that used to be very specialized and require a lot of training becomes like democratized, then you have to step up your game. But, you know, this is a conversation that writers are having with
the ChatGPT.
Yeah. So, but I tend to be a little more on the optimistic side in terms of the fact that once you democratize something like that, it forces people to up their game.
Right. Like the rising tide lifts all boats idea.
Yeah. And are there dangers with it? Absolutely. I mean, there's all kinds of ways you can use it to tell lies.
But
the ability to tell lies in writing or in imagery or in video has existed forever. I mean, special effects are essentially that. And, you know, Star Wars was made with, you know,
with all the
models and
originally.
stuff. But it's very believable, you know. I mean, now looking at it now, you're like, it looks kind of fakey. But
at the time,
it was amazing.
Jurassic Park was the same thing, you know. You're like, well, this isn't scary, but it was at the time.
Yeah.
Or when you're younger.
So it's convincing. So anyway, I'm just saying, you know, that this isn't something really all that new. You could tell lies with any technology that we've had. But the ability to make good images is now in everybody's pocket. And so in order to really stand out, you have to be very conscious of things that your average person isn't. So the way composition and lighting and all those things that made for good art all along, you really have to be aware of, and you can't just know those things just because you have the technology. Those are things you still have to
learn and practice.
Study, practice, and editing is a whole different thing too. I mean, there's almost no photo that I don't edit in some way, in part because like even a scene like this, you have these dark trees in the foreground and you have the bright sky in the background. And when you set your exposure, you're going to see either the trees nice and clear, but the sky will be washed out, or the sky will be nice and colorful like this, and then the trees will be really dark and almost in silhouette.
Right.
So you can, now with AI and sort of high-end technology that like Lightroom or Adobe Photoshop has, you can just choose like select sky, whereas in the past you used to have to kind of like
cut through everything,
trace around it, you know, and then you can darken up the clouds so that the details that are there. And so then the question is like, is that more real, or is that lying with photography? Like, because your eye sees the details in both the sky and on the ground. Right. Your camera can't.
No.
And so what I'm doing in a way is like restoring what you actually see when you're in the scene rather than... Anyway, there's all kinds of like philosophical and ethical questions that you can get into with this stuff. But anyway, my take is that if you're making it more true to the real scene, then that's totally legitimate. It's when you start bending the truth a little. Like I tend to be pretty open. If I share a picture on Facebook or something, I will say I removed the power lines from this photo. Yeah. Because they were just in the way and ruining the scene. And it is how it would look before, you know, this new development was put in or whatever. And it's not telling a lie in that sense, but I do stuff like that, or I'll take out a house that was recently built because I'm like, oh, I loved this scene, and now there's this huge house on the hill, and I'm like, I'm just gonna take it out. Yeah. I don't want it there.
Well, an artist, if they're painting a picture, because my dad, who's painted a bunch of your stuff, I feel like he just goes through and edits stuff too. Yeah. You know, probably the same kinds of things, power lines. Maybe you've already edited them out for him.
Probably in some places, yeah.
But it's interesting. Well, and I feel like that same exact problem happens when you're driving along, because in Idaho, the skies are amazing. You know, every evening pretty much. You're like, oh, gotta capture this. But when the moon is so huge, so huge, and you're like, oh, you take a picture with your phone, and there's nothing. You're like, well, it was big, I promise. Yeah. It was really big. So how do you fix that? Or, you know, is it only something that a really high-end photographer with a nice, expensive camera can actually get some of that stuff?
There's, I think where like a phone camera versus a more professional setup, one of the biggest differences is the ability to get up close to things. So like I have a lens that goes out to 600 millimeters, so it's, you know, it is hefty. I have to have a monopod with it because if you're carrying it around, you're going to end up with needing to see a chiropractor.
Carpal tunnel.
It's big and heavy piece of glass, but that allows you to zoom in up close to that harvest moon or whatever. And it does, this is another thing that's interesting about telephoto photography is that it creates the illusion of compressed space. So one time I was up in Moscow, kind of up by the Walmart. There's a hill up behind Walmart that I went up to it was New Year's Eve. And the light was just gorgeous because all the trees had like hoarfrost on them, and there was snow, and the sun was setting like just this bright kind of pinkish glow that was just lighting up all the snowy trees and everything. So I had been shopping for a New Year's Eve party at Walmart, getting some napkins and stuff, and then I was like, I'm just gonna drive up this little hill and see if I can get a better view. And I had my camera in the car from some earlier in the day, and so I took a picture looking toward the University of Idaho from up there, and there's the administration building on the hill, Paradise Ridge is behind it, and then there's, you know, some other university buildings in front of it between the admin and where I was. But I was using that extra long lens. And so it creates this illusion of things being much closer together than they are.
Like the hill's right there.
Yeah, so it looks like Paradise Ridge is like right behind the administration building. And I shared this photo I'm an admin. Sounds so important, but I'm an admin on the. There's a Facebook group called Photography of the Palouse, and so I share a lot of my photos in that group, and it was funny because there are a lot of people, are like, wow, that's such a cool shot. But I had a number of people comment on it and say, like, that's fake. There is no hill behind the administration building. I'm like, well,
this is Paradise Ridge.
Yeah, and like there is, it's just, it's like a half mile away, but it looks like it's right there just because of the way it's called telecompression. So it's an illusion. It's like, so it's like, is it real? Yes, but it looks not real. But that's, lenses and optics do, they are, like, we use that metaphor of seeing through a lens, shaping how you understand the world. And it's an apt metaphor because it does, like, how you crop things changes how you...
Yeah, what did you leave out of the picture?
Yeah. Yep.
What did you choose to include? Well, and it's interesting, I'll ask in a second what your favorite item is to shoot, or, genre, or whatever the proper term is for that. But we deal with photography for real estate all the time, but real estate photography is its own category too. And it's really interesting to see where that's gone and kind of what the expectation is, or some of the norms with real estate photography, because there are there's some listings where it's clearly been just shot probably on an iPhone or previously on a digital camera, just kind of click. And it really makes a huge difference on the setup of the room and the presentation of the house. And yet at the same time, you don't want it to look better than reality, because you don't want people disappointed when they get there. Like, well, this house looked amazing, and this is nothing like it, It's dark, it's not light and bright like the picture showed. But it's also funny, one of the trends recently has been with windows, where they like accentuate the view from the window. So there's a window in the bedroom, and you can see it almost like it's a poster, the trees outside. And it's very fake looking, and yet I've seen it throughout some of these things more recently, and they're just like, it's a look, it's a feel, and you're just trying to highlight the view so much, I think. But anyway, all that to say, it's just, I think there's a huge impact on what we're seeing, and it is really interesting where you want it to land, because you want it to tell the truth, and you want it to put its best foot forward. Yeah. So, but that's also a different kind of lens and a different kind of skill set and what people enjoy. But anyway, what's your favorite subject to shoot?
Landscapes. Living in the Palouse, it's actually a destination, like an international destination for landscape photography, which I didn't realize growing up here.
I didn't know that. Well, Steptoe Butte, right, is huge.
Steptoe in particular. So Whitman County actually advertises in like landscape photography magazines and stuff to come shoot the Palouse. And there are a number of people that I know of around the area that run photography workshops all through the summer, and then again during harvest, and they make a living off of visiting photographers coming in from all over the place taking photos. So yeah, Steptoe Butte's great if you just want one of those like classic miles wide views of the rolling hills. And it's remarkable actually to me that it's still as undeveloped as it is, because it's the butte itself is just this cone that sticks up above the landscape, and that's a state park. So it's obviously not going to have houses on it or anything, but all the land around it is private farmland. And I could see people selling that off, and it being filled with subdivisions or something, and
then it's gone.
and then the sort of the charm of the agricultural landscape would change significantly, but it's still just mostly rolling hills as far as the eye can see, and there's a grain elevator and a couple little tiny towns that you can see from up there. But so I love to go up there. In fact, I just went this week, and it's always a little bit of a hit and miss. You can go on a perfectly clear day and you're going to get a great view, but I like to get some fun clouds and stuff in the picture too. So I'll sometimes go when it's sort of spitting rain, but it's a little, you don't know for sure if the clouds are just going to move in and block the sun, and then it's which is what happened this week. But it's still, it's still beautiful. There's wildflowers blooming up there right now, and it's a gorgeous spot. So if you had to pick one place to go take photos,
You'd
that's
say
it.
that.
And it's very easy to get to because you can drive all the way to the top. So even if you're with like grandparents or somebody like that can't hike.
Kamiak.
Yeah, Kamiak requires a hike
Yeah.
to get to the view, but
Yeah.
which is also gorgeous, but you can only look
One direction.
east.
Right.
I guess from the parking lot you can look west, but
And you can see glimpses out when you're hiking up from other ways, but that big view is at the top.
is a hike up. So Steptoe is different in that you can just drive up and it just spiral all the way to the parking lot at the top. So there's nothing really to do up there,
Just to look at the
enjoy the view.
There used to be a hotel back in the
Yes.
day, but it burned down a couple times, I think, or just maybe once, but it didn't really make it.
Yeah, the footings of the foundation are still visible on one side, and apparently there's some project through Washington State University where they were collecting apple species, like seeds from apples that are on the verge of extinction. And I read recently that there are a few varieties of apples that were believed to be extinct that they found on Steptoe Butte.
Oh, crazy.
That
they had
visitors over the years have just thrown an apple out the carriage window or something, and there's this apple tree there that
that's cool.
nobody knew
Yeah.
was one of these rare varieties. Anyway, so this is little fun local trivia for you.
It is really fun. So Steptoe is one of your favorites. If you were giving some tips about people trying to improve like their everyday iPhone in your pocket photography, because you've shot from the car window too and shared a bunch of pictures like that are also really good. What's your recommendation on that? How do you improve your everyday iPhone?
Everyday iPhone photography. The main thing is just to think about your composition. And it used to be like the cameras were horizontal, like just ergonomically, they're built to be held horizontally. And so amateur photographers, just that's the default, is they never would turn it vertically, even if
it's just a
so they'd be like taking a picture and be like, oh, it's a beautiful sunset, and then they'd only get
that much of it,
this much sky,
Yeah.
And it's like, turn it vertical, and then you can get more sky in the picture and still have whatever it is that's in the foreground that you like. So, but now it's the opposite. People hold their phones vertically, and everybody takes vertical photos, and sometimes the best option is to get like a group. This is my group photos, people.
Oh, yeah.
Don't take vertical group photos. Stop it. Not really, you can do it, but
don't.
But you can get in closer, like get everybody in and go horizontal.
Yeah, get the whole
and get
group
closer.
in. That's so
you
funny,
can see
but we're
their
just
faces.
also used to.
Yeah, so they have all this dead space, like of just
and
blank
we don't want to see your
sky.
feet necessarily.
Yeah, blank sky above people. And so that's the other thing is don't center your subject smack in the middle, typically. It's a rule that's meant to be broken because there's situations like classical architecture is very symmetrical, and it makes sense to have a photo that's very symmetrical. But otherwise, make your skyline in the top third and then the landscape in the lower third. Or if the sky is the interesting part, fill the top 2/3 with sky and then have a little bit of landscape in the bottom. Or put your, I'll often have like a barn on one side, but it's always like it's not smack in the middle.
Right.
It's off to 1/3, and it just creates a little bit of more dynamism in the photo, a little more movement and interest than if everything's just centered. So those are some super basic considerations. And then some of it just comes with editing, and like with your phone, you can choose which part to expose for the
while
light.
you're in the picture.
So if you really want the sky to pop, then focus on the sky so that those sunset colors come through. But if the sky is just a blank, boring gray or blue or whatever, then make sure that you're exposing for the subject in the foreground, so it's not just dark.
Yeah.
And because your camera can only capture a certain range of light, it can't capture everything. So
yeah.
Those are my quick hot tips.
What are your thoughts on filters?
Yeah, this gets into the whole AI thing too. I've done a little bit of. Basically, this is.
Well, there's editing.
There's editing,
and then there's that quick filter that people throw on, or you can buy some filters or whatever, or maybe to download. And maybe you don't have to buy them. but then it just turns everything into kind of an orangey tone, or the curated Instagram look, or So what's your thought on filters?
I have mixed feelings on filters. It's editing and filters are basically the same thing. It's just one is more like manual and conscientious and takes time, and a filter is a quick, easy fix, and it can be fine. There are like the catfish filters that like make your 45-year-old woman look
smooth.
Like she's 12.
Get rid of all the wrinkles.
Yeah. And install fake eyelashes and all kinds of nonsense. And like that's just lying.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's lying to yourself. Like you just don't, honey.
You don't look that good. It's when you've accidentally bumped your camera on your phone and you look.
Yeah, but I think you can use them sparingly, and this is also too where it depends on what you're doing. So if you're doing landscape photography, you're doing it usually sort of an artistic endeavor.
Right.
You're not a photojournalist.
Right.
But there are different reasons for photography. I'm just like there's different reasons for writing. If you're writing a news story, you have to be very factual and very careful that you're not exaggerating anything or intentionally leaving out important details. Whereas if you're writing a creative piece, you can mess with the details, and everyone kind of understands what the genre is.
Right.
And
like
so
fiction versus an actual accounting of the style.
Yes. Yeah. And so when you're taking a photo, like a selfie, and you're adding all these layers of filters that, shrink your nose and enlarge your eyes and get rid of all your freckles or whatever it is, that's like, and then you're presenting it to the world as though this is what I look like. You're just lying. I'm sorry,
Right.
you're a liar.
Right.
Stop it. But if you're doing, artistic, if it's an artistic endeavor and it's very clear that that's what you're doing, then you're not lying to anybody and nobody's being deceived.
Right.
It's like I can say that and be like, yeah, they're just having fun, and it's it might be silly, but it's not deceptive. And so that's where I would draw the line. It's like just don't tell lies. And if you do make edits that you're using for like more journalistic or even advertising purposes, you can say like, here's I've cropped out this or
Yep. No, that makes complete sense. So one more thought on, because we're coming on our timeline here, but after you've taken pictures, what's your recommendation on getting them off of your camera, off of your phone, and getting them up on the wall or in books, or what do you recommend on that? So, because it's so easy to have a pile of pictures that we don't actually do anything with.
Yeah.
And that's always been the case. You can have a stack of photos back in the day that you would have gotten developed.
They just sit in a
but
shoebox.
they just sit in a shoebox rather than in your phone. But is there something that you like, specifically to do, or where you print, or making it easier to get some of those gorgeous shots up on the wall?
Oh, there's so many options now. It's hard to say exactly. It just depends on like what you want to use it for. But if it's just documenting like a trip, I've gotten photo books put together that are just a fun record of the places we visited and the people we saw. But for the more like artistic stuff, I will typically I will say be meticulously organized in your file system if you take a lot of pictures, because if you want to go back and find one, so sometimes somebody will message me and say, hey, I'd love to get this photo for my wall. And it was one I took in like 2016 or something. And it's like, if I didn't have all my photos organized, by year, by month, by, event or whatever, then it'd be very hard to track them down. So if you just photo dump into one giant receptacle, good luck.
Do you have hard drives? like extra hard drives?
I do have external hard drives, but I also back up all my photography. I back up on the cloud. So I use Dropbox.
Yeah. So you have it safe.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I like Dropbox just because I can share those files with people who don't actually have a Dropbox account, whereas Google requires the user to be a Google.
Oh. So then you have to sign up. It's a pain. Yeah.
And I know enough people that feel like Google invades their privacy and they won't get a Google account. So if I try to share that way, that doesn't work. So Dropbox has worked well for me for file sharing for all kinds of stuff, but I'm not getting paid by Dropbox
to promote it.
But yeah, that's been my go-to for sharing folders and files and photos. But I will say, it is nice to have a few places that you've tried for printing that are your go-to. There's a couple of online printers that I like that I use for art shows and stuff like that. And but I've seen even some really good results from people's Walmart prints.
Oh yeah,
it just depends on the city.
Yeah.
I mean, not every Walmart is good.
Yeah, no, we've had some good ones from Walmart here. We've done a fair bit with Walmart actually, but do you swap out a fair bit with your photography at your house?
Have I'm so terrible about getting stuff up on my own walls. This is
No, I actually think that's probably everybody. If it's the kids were looking at pictures above our bed, which is pictures of them at one point, and we get them taken every year pretty much, and they're like, these are old.
Yeah.
Okay, that's I gotta get some printed, gotta get them replaced. But if you're always in it and you're always taking amazing pictures, how do you pick and choose?
Usually what happens is I'll do like a photo show, like Art Walk, which I did not do this year because our son got married and it was too much. But I will, or for a sale or something, I'll just print a whole bunch and just kind of guess what might sell, based on what people have bought in the past. And whatever doesn't sell is what I'll just put on my walls for the season. And then the next event, I'll take those down and put them on display and then print new ones. And so that's usually what I end up doing.
So
it's
that's like your rotation. So you get some rotation.
Yeah, I do get some rotation. And I had some winter photos up during Christmas time, and then I took those down and put up some nice green ones for the summer.
Yeah, to match the season outside. Well, any final tips or thoughts on photography?
I just say practice. And there's so many resources online now for like photography 101, and people, I will tell you this. This is like one of those funny men-women differences, is that almost every time I've done a show or an exhibit, I will have women that come up to me and ask me about photos, and they want to know, like, where was it taken, or, the story behind it, or what kind of flower is that? And the men always want to know, what gear do I use
to get the same photo?
What's the machinery behind this photo? Which just cracks me up.
Yes.
I'm like, what brand of camera? And then they'll lecture me on why the camera that they've chosen is the better gear.
We didn't even discuss the Canon Nikon question.
No, that's because you're a woman.
Well, but it's one of those rabbit holes where I do feel like if you're going to go invest money and buy a nice camera, I think you can get so stressed out and stuck. Like, I don't know what to think.
Yeah, you can get sucked down that whole rabbit hole. And the reality is there are so many good options. And it's like, if you're a Nikon person, you love Nikon. If you're a Canon person, you love Canon. If you're Fuji, if you're Sony. Yeah. And they're all good. And they all have different strengths. And so I use Canon, but that's just because that's what I started with. And all my lenses are Canon, and it would be extremely expensive to ever even look into switching. So I haven't. And it works fine for me. But if you held up 10 photos of the same location and asked which one was shot on Nikon, nobody could tell. I mean, let's be real. It's just, and honestly, I would say invest in a less expensive camera and a more expensive lens.
Okay. So buy a fine camera body, but buy a separate lens. That's going to be really good.
Yes.
What's the first lens you should buy?
Depends on what you're taking pictures of. If you're a portrait photographer, the Nifty 50 is the way to go. They're usually inexpensive, but you want a really wide aperture. So it'll say like F/ and then a number. The smaller that number, the bigger the opening. It's called the aperture. And with a wide aperture, you get a nice blurred background behind your subject. And
so pictures of kids. And
or if you're doing product photography, like if you're selling jewelry or something, you want something with a really shallow depth of field, so you get a nice clear focus on the thing you're selling, and everything in the back is sort of blurred. That's why you want a wide aperture lens. So the smaller the number, so f1.4 with a 50 millimeter lens is great for that kind of stuff, product and portrait. But for other stuff, I do a lot of sports photography.
Which I've loved those pictures. Those have been so great.
Oh, thanks. And I like to have a big fat long lens for that, so I can get up close right where the action is. And the same with landscape photography, because I do like that compression of space that you get that makes the hills just look like
they're right there,
one on top of the other. And you can't get that with a phone or a wide angle lens. You want something that's like in the hundreds. So 150 millimeter to 300 to even 600 will give you some of that
huge
drama. And yeah, you get up close to things that you can't on the ground. So, and for landscape photographers, this is a big deal. Like in our photography group, periodically we have to remind people not to trespass. Because people are
property,
because people will get their phones out and they're like, I want to get a close up of that cool old abandoned house, and it's like, don't do it, because it's dangerous for one thing. There's often like rusty nails and stuff around, and it's also just a bad idea. You could get fined or So get a long lens so you can just stand on a public sidewalk or a public road to take a picture of the cool old barn that's falling down or whatever. But
don't just tromp through the fields, the canola fields or the...
Yes, so getting a nice telephoto lens will keep you from breaking the law.
I think that's a good thing to end on. How to keep you out of trouble.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, thanks so much, Hannah. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
Thanks for joining us. Like, share, subscribe. We'll see you next week.